That's when she heard it. A faint metal sound from the kitchen. Then again. She paused and listened. The sound grew louder. Metal striking ceramic. Hello. This will be a story about a family that was just trying to live a normal life, or at least start a normal life. Just got married, just got a new home. But that home ended up not being as welcoming as they first thought it would. Maybe it could happen to you next time you think about moving to a new apartment, a new house. So please try to look up some more information about that place. Or probably this is just a story for some of you. But if you don't have enough respect for it, it might become your next reality. Let's begin with our program, What Crawls in the Nights. About 30 years ago, something happened to one of my aunts here in Culiacan, Mexico. It's a story that has lingered in our family ever since. The kind of story people lower their voices for when they talk about it. Back then, my aunt had just gotten married. She and her husband bought a house. Nothing fancy, but big enough to start a life in. The only strange thing about it was its location. The house stood right beside a cemetery. At first, she didn't think much of it. Cemeteries were quiet places, after all. But a few days after moving in, once the furniture was arranged, the rooms organized, and the house finally felt lived in, things began to feel wrong. My aunt has 9 sisters, including my mom. And because the house was large, 2 of my other aunts moved in with her. My grandmother's house was also nearby, so the place was rarely empty. There was almost always laughter, voices, someone cooking in the kitchen. But sometimes it was quiet. One night, only 2 of them were home, my aunt and one of her sisters. It was getting late, and they were getting ready to sleep when my aunt heard something downstairs. It was footsteps. Not just one pair, many. They moved across the lower floor, slowly at first, then faster, accompanied by muffled voices and laughter. It sounded exactly like a gathering, like people returning home from a party and crowding into the house. She listened for a moment and smiled to herself. It must be the rest of the family coming back early, she thought. But as the minutes passed, the noise grew stranger. The footsteps didn't stop. They kept moving, pacing, crossing the same spaces over and over again. The voices overlapped in whispers she couldn't quite understand. Still thinking everyone had come home, she walked downstairs. And the house was empty, completely silent. The living room was exactly as they had left it. The front door was locked. No lights were on. The silence felt heavy. For a moment, she just stood there, her heart beating a little faster than before. Then, she shook her head and told herself it was nothing. Maybe she had imagined it. She went back upstairs and lay down again. A little before midnight, the sound came again. Now it was knocking. 3 sharp knocks on the front door. She sat up immediately. Her sister heard it too. They looked at each other without speaking. It was late. Too late for visitors. "Come with me," my aunt said quietly. They walked downstairs together and opened the door. The street outside was empty. No footsteps walking away, no cars, not even a dog barking in the distance. Just darkness. That night, they slept badly. But the next morning, they tried to laugh it off. Maybe it had been a drunk person knocking on the wrong house. Maybe kids playing a prank. Nothing supernatural. Just ordinary explanations. Later that day, one of the sisters left, and my aunt stayed home alone. She began doing chores, washing dishes in the kitchen, just trying to keep herself busy. When she finished, she grabbed a mop and started cleaning the living room floor. That's when she heard it, a faint metal sound from the kitchen. Then, again. She paused and listened. The sound grew louder. Metal striking ceramic, utensils scraping against plates. Slowly she turned around. The spoons and forks on the counter were moving. At first, it looked like vibrations, a slight tremble. Then, the plates began to shake. Rattling against each other as if something invisible had wrapped its hands around the entire set of dishes. They were shaking violently now, clattering, jumping, every piece of silverware on the counter trembling like they were trying to escape. My aunt didn't scream, she ran. She sprinted upstairs, locked herself in her bedroom, and stayed there until the noise stopped. Hours passed. No one had come home yet. Most of the family was still recovering from the party the night before. Eventually, she forced herself to go outside to the backyard to wash clothes. The yard was large and quiet. At the back stood a big old tree whose branches stretched over the fence. Just beyond that fence was the cemetery. She tried not to look at it. She focused on the laundry instead, scrubbing clothes in a bucket. The afternoon air was still, too still. Then she heard it, right behind her. Psst, psst, hey. The sound was soft, almost playful, and she froze. Rosa. Her name. The voice came from the direction of the tree. Turn around, Rosa. Her heart began pounding so loud she thought it might drown the voice down. Rosa, turn around. She knew deep in her bones that no one was supposed to be there. No footsteps had approached. No gate had been opened. Nothing had moved. The voice was close now. Closer than it should have been. Her entire body locked with fear. Every instinct screamed at her not to turn around. Whatever was calling her name, it wasn't meant to be seen. Without looking back, she slowly stood up. Then she walked, fast at first, then faster, until she was inside the house again. She went straight to her room and stayed there, with the door locked. Around 5 in the afternoon, the rest of the family finally came home. They were surprised to find her upstairs, pale and shaking. When she told them what had happened, something strange happened in the room. No one laughed. Instead, one by one, some of them admitted they had experienced things too. Objects shifting slightly when no one was around, faint footsteps at night, strange sounds in empty rooms. But none of them had said anything. They hadn't wanted to scare her. My aunt stayed in the house for a few more months, but she never felt safe there again. Eventually, she sold it and moved away. Not long after, the new owners demolished the house to build something new. When they cut down that big tree in the backyard, they discovered something buried beneath the roots. A small wooden box. Inside were gold coins, old ones. Not enough to make someone rich, but enough to be worth something. Years later, my aunt told me something she still thinks about. She believed the voice that day wasn't trying to scare her. She thinks the spirits were trying to show her the box. That's why I called her name. That's why I kept asking her to turn around. But she never did. And sometimes she wonders what she might have seen if she had turned around. Well guys, that was today's story. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, or you guys can even give me one of your stories and I can make it in a video. Sometimes spirits are not that bad. They're just trying to alert you of something that's about to happen or may happen. So remember, don't ignore the sounds tonight. You've already awakened it. Good night, and don't let the bedbugs bite.